Going to Delphi, or picking the brains of 19 experts. Dear experts, with this presentation I would like to inform you about the results of the Delphi study in which you participated during the last months. Let me first say that it does not give fully justice to all the comments you provided, but I had to make a choice and boil it down to the essential points. Before going into the details, I would like to say thank you that you made some time to answer all the questions I had. The idea for this Delphi study started back in 2012 when the results of a study came in. Together with colleagues, we discussed these results for more than 1 hour, thinking about how changes in social identity could impact team performance and professional development. We ended with the realization that we didn't know near enough to make claims on which to base our analysis. Our biggest problem was to decide what is the best position. Lacking the starting point, it was difficult to quantify change in social identity and thus to analyze it together with the other variables. But enough about history. The Delphi was composed of a total of 19 researchers from 16 universities located in 8 countries. The majority of participants were associate professors or full professors. When looking at the quantitative results, I used as an agreement criteria Kendall W for the ranking questions and the coefficient of variation to measure stability of answers. In this way, the two major quality criteria for Delphi studies, group consensus and group stability, was assessed. The answers to the open questions were coded with a bottom-up coding schema using an iterative approach. The final coding schema includes 4 major codes: team performance, professional development, space for other identities, and context factors. Each major code is further separated into smaller entities. Looking at team performance, we can see that consensus was already very high in round 2 and further increased to round 3. Group stability was also okay. Round 1 provided insights into the extreme position and the middle point. It became interesting with round 2 when the full ranking was presented. While there was quite some agreement, there wasn't full consensus on the lower position of the ranking. But this disagreement disappeared with round 3. Looking more closely at the differences in ranking, the arguments he provided gave insight into why there were any differences. In round 2, social identity researchers, depicted in green in the figure, still emphasized that professionals need to have space for their own personal identity. The white part, which I didn't attribute it to anything, bothered them and they linked it to personal identity. Secondly, expertise researchers, depicted in blue, pointed towards the need to have a professional identity in order to do their job. Thus, in their eyes, if one of the identities is missing, it is better for team performance if it is team identity, as at least then the professionals will still adhere to their professional norms. The dimension of professional development seemed to be harder to answer at first, as the consensus in round 2 is lower than for team performance. However, it increased to high levels in round 3. Thus, within the groups, experts moved towards one position. While the ranking on a group level did not change a lot from round 2 to round 3, as shown by the stability index, the answers of individuals experts changed, as shown by the higher Kendall W. Coming to the ranking, also for professional development, round 1 was used to get a first insight. Compared to team performance, disagreement between expert groups is within the higher position of the ranking and in the lower position. The disagreement within the higher position of the ranking remained in round 3 for professional development. As with team performance, the arguments you provided explain these different rankings. While team and social identity researchers favor a balance between team and professional identity for professional development, expertise researchers, depicted in blue, view professional identity more important for professional development as it provides the driver for learning. On the lower side of the ranking, team researchers, depicted in red, judge that professional development always happens within the context of the team and thus argue that it is better for professional development to have full team identity and no professional identity than no team identity but some professional identity. An interesting outcome of the Delphi study were the questions you had. To avoid introducing bias, I didn't answer them between the rounds. Admittedly, I have not an answer to all of them. Firstly, I understood some level of social identity to be any level of commitment to a social group, which is not very high nor inexistent. As in qualitative research, I have defined the endpoints of the continuum as no and high, but did not provide quantifiable information for anything between no and high. Secondly, I choose to not define how much overlap there is between team and professional identity. I left this open to you. Some of you included a potential overlap in the answers or answered the questions assuming overlap. This brings me to the third point, the content of professional identity. I have again not defined it. Some experts thus assume that the content purely relates to domain expertise behavior, whereas others also included teamwork skills as content of professional identity. Lastly, I wanted to share the following outcome of the Delphi study with you. Statement 1. Teamwork provides the context for professional development. Team identity should always be higher than professional identity. Statement 2. Team performance is dependent on professional performance. Professional identity should always be higher than team identity. While as a researcher I could live with this, a practical outcome is that organizations will struggle with this because they need to make a decision between team identity and professional identity. With these contradictory statements, I will now wrestle. If you have further comments, feel free to contact me. Thank you.